The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, welcome to the Monday Club. The brothers Boyce are back together. Jonathan, how the devil are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a long time coming, bringing the two of us back together. So it's been about a few weeks now since we've been on together. Certainly in better condition than I was last week on Monday after a wee bit of a bit too much to drink, shall we say, at the Bullfrog. But back in fine form this evening and looking forward to discussing all things Celtic.
Absolutely, mate. It was you did it on Sunday last week, didn't you?
Sunday the football.
Yeah,
Monday. I was.
You did the show, sorry, on Tuesday. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. No, I didn't do the show on Tuesday.
Did you not?
No, I wasn't on Tuesday.
I
had the week off.
No, the week off, mate. Well, fair enough. That seems fair enough to me. How's everyone doing in the comments? Good to have so many on the bus already as well. Sorry I've not been as active as was planned. Obviously, we will be reflecting on the win. Second win from our second game. Everyone's saying poor sound now. There's nothing I can do, I'm afraid. I'm not back using the shitey camera. They lost the other webcam. There's not much I can do.
No, we'll persevere. Oh, he's gone. Hopefully he's just going to have a wee look at that and see what he can do to get that on all fixed up. That wouldn't be the bus without technology problems, I guess. So it looks like it's just going to be me for the moment. But it was obviously a big weekend in the football for Celtic. We obviously had a big result on Saturday. There, oh, he's back. Is that you?
I don't know if you can hear me any better or not. I mean, I genuinely don't know.
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine.
Aye, I don't know. No idea if it's working or not. Can still hear.
No, they're saying it's better. The comments are saying it's better. I think it sounds as if you've fixed it. Yep.
Happy days. But yes, the reason we didn't do the post-match push on Saturday and we didn't do the fan cam live was, Jonathan, it was very interesting. I didn't feel like I didn't watch much of the game due to the quality stream. I couldn't get. And you know what? It was really frustrating when I was watching it because it was freezing all the time. You were having to go back in, reload it, and you were losing like the thread of the game. So I think it would have been a bit rich to have done a post-match pish, Jonathan, without actually knowing how the game went other than the score and seeing the odd replay goal on Twitter. So that was a bit of a pain in the arse. I know that Mark and Regan did their damnness yesterday to sort of talk. So I think Mark was saying he'd seen maybe 50 minutes of the game. And I think Regan had seen most of it. But it's frustrating, that stuff. It is frustrating. But we will obviously reflect. Stephen Coulthard says he got 60 minutes. That was a lot longer than I was getting.
It's a good innings, Stephen, that.
I was switching between phone and laptop. I was getting so wound up with it all, to be honest. I mean, I suppose we should be really thinking, Jonathan, as well. Like, what's the story there now? Like, see if Sky aren't taking the game. How the fuck is there not just a simple option that we can use, you know, to pay for a legal stream, one that works? And I think rather than denying, you know, so many fans of football in general, do you know what I mean? Access to these games. Yes, we can look at the scheduling, but the broadcasters, it's their gift, Jonathan, to pick what games they want to pick.
Yep.
I just think the success we had during lockdown with the pass systems and all that, surely this is something that can be implemented again this season when, I mean, the broadcaster, again, as I say, they could choose what games they pick and they could choose how many games they pick. They are given a limit, a maximum number of fixtures that they can show over a season. I can't remember the exact amount with Sky. Is it 54, something like that?
It's around that, yeah.
I mean, and I know that some seasons they've only shown 50 of them or something like that. You know, they've maybe missed 4 out. If that's going to be happening, I think we have to now be saying, well, there's demand here for it. You can't have it both ways and moan about illegal streaming and then not have your maximum target audience, Jonathan, able to watch their team. Like, it's just ridiculous. It seems crazy when we're a club, Jonathan, with a worldwide fan base. You know, I know that line gets punted out a lot, but it's very true.
Yep.
Now, in the UK and Scotland in particular, but also, you know, in the rest of the UK, Jonathan, there has got to be a way these guys can watch the football, these guys and girls, of course. But there are so many fans being shortchanged right now with whether it be in paying for far too many subscription services as it is, and then they can't even, albeit all willingly, be able, Jonathan, to just pay a tenner to whatever streaming service it may be so we could watch our beloved team. I just think it seems really, really backwards to me. What's your take on it? It just seems nuts.
No, it totally is. I don't understand what the thought process is behind it. Sky have taken all the rights to these games, but then they're not showing many of them actually on telly at all. I think they're about 7 or 8 games shy of their actual maximum entitlement last season. And then you're looking at it even now, and you just think there's just so much potential there for clubs to get some well-needed funds in the bank as well. You know what I mean? You're thinking about it. You think, you know, for a team like Ross County, think how much money they could make off a pay-per-view service, because I would have paid for it if it'd been on pay-per-view, and I did it a few times last season for some of the games that Sky chose not to pick up, and it just seems like a bit of a non-brainer, because I can't really be arsed messing about trying to find streams that you just never know if they're going to pack in on you. It seems as if on Saturday it was almost impossible to find one. I didn't even bother trying, to be honest with you. I could see in our group chat that not many people were having much success, so I just kind of put it to one side and wrote it off. But it's just a bit frustrating when you've got Sky have all the rights to all these games, and no doubt they won't even take them all up at the end of the season. And then you're still back in a position where, you know, fans could really be just giving those clubs much needed funds. And you're right, we're now in the 21st century. Football's moved on so much with the broadcasting deals and everything else. It just seems absolutely ludicrous that we are now in a position where nobody that wants to actually pay for the service can actually watch the games live. It makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
It does seem to be. I wonder if the broadcasting deal, Jonathan, when it was taken out without this ever being mentioned before, because realistically, it only the PPV thing only came into play because of COVID. Let's be honest.
Yep.
But it's funny no one's been innovative enough to have thought of this before. I like Kaiser's idea here, and big hello to you, Kaiser. I hope you're well, mate. And he said, an SFA app with all the Scottish football live, the Cups and Europe for £10 a month, then the money split across the leagues and put into the prize for winning it and investing in the full league. I mean, obviously the European fixtures would be a separate thing. That would be extremely, extremely hard to try and bid for the rights to that, Jonathan, ahead of BT's mammoth offers. I think that's now £1 billion or something. So I can't see the SFA being able to rival BT and the European ones. But I take his point. I think something like that. I know there was talk of XPFL TV before, but for me, it just seems like there's money there as well that the clubs could be making, Jonathan, in a time where I actually think the Scottish football brand, its reputation, is kind of all right now. I think the reputation of our game is pretty good right now. I think obviously, the storylines are unrivaled in our league, and I think there is an entertainment value to it. I also believe that when you're watching it, a lot of the time you're watching, other than Celtic and Rangers, you are watching guys playing for their livelihoods, Jonathan. I think there's an appetite that for a lot of sports fans, a lot of football fans to still see that, because obviously now, I mean, you look at the English top league and let's be completely honest here, Jonathan, the subs are coming on to make their debut at 18 years old and they're pretty much a millionaire, if not a millionaire, in a lot of cases already. We've got that unique selling point that our league, is bonkers, and there's obviously two, let's be fair, real standout clubs from a broadcasting point of view. But if we were to go on our own, I wonder if you would be able to get things like PPV for games that will be in stream. If it was just all PPV, that'd be brilliant. I just think there's so many ways around it. My guess is that SPFL only sell X amount of fixtures to the broadcasters. So even if it was an app like Kaiser's saying there, that wouldn't matter too much, because it just seems strange. It just seems strange to me that I'm sitting trying to watch the game. You're sitting trying to watch the game on Saturday, and in 2022, a club as big as Celtic, I can't see it unless I'm one of, what is it, Dingwall holds 6,000, 7,000?
Yeah, you're not even getting that as a away support. That's just the stadium capacity. So it's even less than that, considering the amount of Celtic fans that can go. And you make a good point as well. People are paying a lot of money out already. If you're wanting to watch all the Celtic games, you're paying Sky for your league games. You're paying BT for your European games. You're paying Premier Sports for the Cup games. So, you're paying quite a bit of money out there over 3 channels. And you're not getting a very good return, if you ask me, certainly on the league side of things. For your investment there at all. There's no bang for your buck. That's not good value for money, and I don't think any Celtic fan can possibly think that it is when you're looking at the amount of games Sky are covering of our matches. And I see comments coming up there about Setanta Sports, and obviously we know that all went up the shit creek really with Setanta, but at the same time, at least with them, you always kind of got the Celtic games were always there. You knew they were always going to be on TV. And even BBC, when they've had them before, you always kind of got a fair crack at it with the games all being on telly, and it was very rare that a Celtic away game wasn't on TV. I just think when it's a game at Ross County and Dingwall, which is one of the harder fixtures of the season, make no bones about it, that was a difficult game for us to navigate on Saturday. Ross County are no mugs. They'll probably be in the top 6 again, in my opinion. They've got a very good manager, whatever else you think about the guy. It's just the kind of game that had banana skin written all over it. And for me, if I was looking at that as Sky, I would have had that game on television on the Saturday. And certainly, if you're not going to take the games, then there should be a way that the clubs are able to make a bit of extra money. Provided I think that they've got enough money coming in from their ticket revenue, because I think that's important. They still need their ticket money coming in, and they need the gates filled to a certain capacity, so they're still getting their ticket revenues, and you're not discouraging fans from going to the games by just throwing it onto a channel they can just pay for, and they'll think, oh, well, why bother? I can just pay for it and watch it on telly. But if you get the right balance there, there's so much more money to be made from it. And Scottish football has proven time and time again that they always have fans willing to invest in the football club. So I don't understand why we can't work a way around this to make sure games are available for everyone to watch in this day and age.
It's not. I think you're absolutely spot on with that, Jonathan, because Scottish football is attended. Obviously, I think we're ranked number 1 or number 2 in Europe for what
number
is it,
one,
percentage
percentage
per
of
head
fans.
football
Percentage per
match
capita.
through the gates. So, I mean, when you look at that sort of a statistic, that tells you there is a market. I just wonder that maybe because the current deal is set in stone, they can't make changes to it, whether that be like Douglas Hughes was saying, free Douglas Hughes, remember all that part? But I mean, I wonder if that's because there is this, you know, the Sky have the obviously the monopoly in the league right now, and then there's a secondary highlights package that have been paid each year and agreed for X amount of years with the BBC, and that prevents the PPV thing. But certainly when the TV deal comes to be renegotiated, Jonathan, I think we've got a few avenues we can now surely be looking at in 2022. Go it alone, bring back the SPFL TV debate, or as Kaiser said, you know, in the modern world, Jonathan, everything's a fucking app these days, isn't it? You know, and then bring in. Let's see how I would do it, right? I would try and go alone, right? And then all the money's coming in to us, and then it'll all get distributed amongst the clubs as fairly as possible, etc. Try and do it like that. And then, what was I going to say there? I had a good point to make there. So we're going to do...
Yes, we're going to bring all the money in between the clubs, which I guess, you know, if you're doing that and you're removing Sky from the equation, the fans are going to get a better deal because every game will then theoretically be on telly. And that goes beyond just Celtic there. You know, if you've got an SPFL TV, then if there's fans of other clubs that want to watch their respective matches, then there's that option there for them to do so. Because it must be frustrating. I know obviously we're obviously primarily focused on Celtic, but if you look at other clubs' fans as well, it must be even more frustrating for them when it's games they can't get to. You've got to remember, Sky don't bother showing any of their games, really, unless they're playing Celtic or Rangers. The only other game outside of them they're interested in is the Edinburgh Derby, which they had on over the weekend there. So you know, you're looking at it and you're thinking,
Jonathan, I think the thing is though, it's very easy to want to bash Sky on this. Oh, I've got my other idea for the app as well. It's came back to me, so I'll tell you that in a minute. So the thing is to bash Sky. I think the coverage of some of the sports with Chris Boyd's on it is unpalatable for us and probably other football fans as well, because I don't think he brings much to the table. However, what Sky did with Chris Boyd was, I think, followed that, you know, they think it's their equivalent of Chris Sutton. The difference is chalk and cheese, in my opinion. But he gets the, you know, how much of Twitter is reacting to Chris Boyd when there's a live every weekend. That's all Sky want. You know, I would imagine if you were 100%. At the head of the broadcast, you want your pundits talked about, Jonathan, whether it's good or bad. You know, not obviously if it's like they've said something completely outrageous or racist or something like that, but if it's just for splitting the divide or driving one half of, you know, our biggest rivals, you know, down the middle, I don't know what we would expect them to do. From a broadcaster's point of view, they don't care that we think Chris Boyd's an idiot. They're just going, come on. It makes you watch it. You want to see him slip up, or after a Rangers draw or defeat, we all want to jump on Sky and see his reaction. That's the truth. So whilst we can moan about the coverage, I think sometimes the difference is as well, people need to remember this. And this will link this in beautifully with the app thing, right? Sky, Jonathan, 1 trillion% were willing to pay a package that the clubs were happy to agree to. BT offered less than what they were already paying for half the games for all the games. So, i.e., they had devalued from where they were before with Scottish football, and that was impossible to accept. Now, if the consensus is the coverage on BT Sport was preferable, fair enough. That's fine. That media company, Jonathan, I don't know if you've noticed, do Premier Sports a lot as well.
Yep.
They can be used. They can be bought as a team. You could have that same production company working with your SPFL app, and then everyone's a winner because you're not shelling out to 3 providers. You're only shelling out on your app. And if you want the European games, which I know most people would, then you would need BT Sport. But that is a UK sort of TV rights package. That is not just a Scottish TV rights package that BT have. That hurdle is too big for us to even consider trying to climb. But Jonathan, if you then had the preferred, if you like, if that's what it is, and I know, I'm not, as I say, I'm not saying one way or the other about Sky's coverage and stuff. At least they valued the product, Jonathan.
Yeah.
But if we think we could make more money from doing it ourselves, then why not use some of the money generated to cover the costs of having the fantastic production team that I enjoyed the coverage of, even though Daryl Curry, to be honest, actually annoys me a wee bit. I still think he's a good presenter. And I think, you've got Sutton, McCoist, etc. That even creative, I mean, Craig is an idiot, but I mean, even when they're all at it and stuff at loggerheads, I think they make for a better dynamic. And I always feel that their sort of promotion of the game is slightly longer, and it feels as though there's a bit more of it's a bit less rigid. It's a bit more Scottish football-esque, I feel like, which means a bit bonkers, Jonathan. Remember Craig and side tackling Sutton on the AstroTurf and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, Mark Kearney's coming in saying, hey, did they not use BT for the pack? It wasn't BT. It was that production company.
Sunrise or Sunset or something like that, whatever the production company's called.
Aye. So we could effectively do that, and they would be very keen to work with us, I'm sure, if there was some sort of SPFL TV option. I mean, it just seems to me to be utterly ridiculous that, as I say, in 2022, the football I'm going to be talking about here, about the club I love, is from a game I was unable to see despite the demand for it. We will get to the game though, Jonathan. 3-1 away from home. Happy?
Yeah, fairly pleased with that. It was looking like it was going to be quite a tricky game on paper. I actually had 3-1 on the old Predictor League, but it didn't look like that was going to be coming at half time. It was looking like it was going to be another stuffy, difficult game. Get your noses in front. You're going to think, hopefully we'll be able to push on from there. Then lo and behold, Ross County equalised. We actually have a brilliant chance with a free kick. Joe Hart makes an outstanding save, one of his best yet as a Celtic.
We'll get to that.
I don't think that's been talked about enough since the game's been played. I think that's probably just because the coverage of it was so poor, as we've already discussed. And obviously, I think the MVP really for us was Jota once again, particularly once he switched flanks, made a massive difference to how things went. It was very interesting for me, Russell, to look at it now and think that's 2 weeks in a row Celtic have scored from a set piece. Now, I can't even tell you the last time that could have possibly happened. Probably going back to Lennon with Julian, possibly. That's probably most likely if that even happened on consecutive games. Doesn't happen very often, which I do wonder, Russell, if that is now going to become a ploy for Celtic this season and another tool to their arsenal, because we've been crying out for more opportunities and goals from corners because we get an absolute heap load of them, and it just feels that we never really do enough of them over the past few years. And I just begin to wonder, is this year going to be the year we finally see that change?
Well, I think there's been a lot of work done on it. I mean, no doubt about it. It's been a focus point. We spoke about this, by the way, on one of the Mondays, I'm sure, before the season ended, that it would be an area, not of concern. I don't like saying it like this, it's all like negative. I just think that would be a focus point if you were Ange, just going, look, we need to be more of a threat from set pieces because naturally we're going to get a heck of a lot, especially with some of the referees and all that, different conversation. I do feel as well that sometimes that can also go with the profile of players we've got in the team. A lot of them, Jonathan, are technicians. They're slighter of frame, sometimes shorter in height, and maybe heading the ball isn't their go-to natural thing. Not that we need to always score with our heads from set pieces, of course, but Big Jens, Jonathan, does score what was a massive goal for us as well. He looks like he could be a real threat in the opposition box.
Yeah, no, he definitely does. You know, I think Carter Vickers has proven as well last season that in spells he can be dangerous from set pieces. He obviously got the goal at Ibrox, I think, a one against St Mirren as well last season. So he's definitely proven Carter Vickers to me that he could offer a bit more in those sort of areas for us as well and get a better goal return this season than he did last. Jens looks like an absolute unit, so he looks like another one that is primed to score a lot of goals and will strike fear into defences when they see him coming up from the back for corners, because he does not look fun to mark. He looks like a physical presence. He's the kind of centre-half that we're kind of crying out for in a lot of ways. And I thought he, took his header extremely well. A lot of power behind that, as well.
Is it his fault for the Ross County goal?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you could possibly say so, but at the same time, he's still finding his feet, I guess, with the team. So it's one of those ones. I think if Welsh had been fit, he might not have got his opportunity either, because Welsh didn't do an awful lot wrong for me in the Aberdeen game. I know he's probably going to be the fourth choice centre half. Welsh.
Well, I think he is. He is, in my opinion.
I think that's not really up for debate. I think everyone's kind of in that sort of thought process as well. But I think if he did fit, I think there's a good chance Welsh might have started in Dingwall and been given another game, because he, as I say, didn't do much wrong against Aberdeen, and he took his goal very well in that game as well, which was another set piece. So it's one of those ones where I'm just beginning to wonder what the best centre-half partnership is here. Beginning to think Starfelt might have his hands full getting back in there alongside Carter Vickers. I think Carter Vickers starts every game as long as he's fit and was one of the centre-halves. And it's just really a question of whether or not it's going to be with Starfelt or whether it's going to be with the new centre-half. But, if he's on a loan to buy, then you've got to imagine, Russell, they're going to play him quite a bit. Yes.
Well, this is the interesting thing, because what we learned with Ange last season was he did not like, and now he could maybe point to this being because he didn't have the options, but he didn't seem, Jonathan, keen to rotate centre-back. That was very much, set in stone, really, from the beginning of the season right the way through. It'll be interesting, because do we see Jens and Starfelt battling for the jersey and sharing it almost, or could it be Starfelt's biggest crime as he got injured, and that then leads to him being sort of on the bench until an opportunity arises through injury or suspension to take the jersey? I certainly agree with you. The CCV is the number one centre back at the club. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Starfelt, I think, did come on to a bit of a game towards the end of last season. I think he was a settled part of the side. We had the meanest defence record in the league. He didn't get a goal, sadly, that we were talking about, Jonathan, and that'll be crucial. The set pieces. These are the fine margins in football that we always speak about. You're talking about Joe Hart's save, and we'll come to that. But Joe Hart's save, if that's not made, and we're suddenly behind in that game, fucking hell, completely different complexion. Now, fine lines can also, though, be, Jonathan, how many goals can we get from set pieces? Brown Warrior wants 5 goals apiece from our centre defenders. That's what he wants each. I mean, if you say 3 of them, Jonathan, are going to play over 30 games this season each, right?
Yeah.
That would be what you're talking about. That would be 15 goals, right? Now, if we're being realistic, I remember the days of Stan Varga. He got 10 in one season. Remember that?
I was just about to say that 03-04.
Yes.
And guess what? The Martin O'Neill era. Sound the Martin O'Neill blacks in 29 minutes, 45 seconds. We've got the man in there. It's taken us almost half the show. But yes, I actually was just about to say that we were obviously thinking on the same wavelength. It was, I'm sure, the 03-04 season. He was just scoring headers every other week, it felt like. Very similar. I think Julian in his first season must have been close to rivaling that, but it doesn't happen often enough that we get these sort of goals, and it does tend to, as we keep harping back to the Martin O'Neill era, as the one that probably stands out the most. for us, scoring a lot from set pieces, and I don't feel it's something we've capitalised on as much since those days. I think Strachan had some success with it, and it just seems to have slowly. McMahon scored a few important goals for us over this piece, and then I just kind of feel like over those sort of years after Strachan, it's really sort of died down an awful lot, and it is good to see Celtic are now addressing it, because I think it almost takes other clubs by surprise as well when we do get a goal from a set piece, because it's just not what Celtic are known for doing, and it's certainly a side of the game I would like to see us improve on, and show that there's a few different ways you can score a goal. It doesn't always need to be nice, pretty 60, 70 passes put together and everybody getting a touch before somebody puts it into the net. Sometimes it can just be a good old-fashioned cross and a simple header, and that's all it takes. It counts for exactly the same as one of your silky goals at the end of the day. They all count for the same amount. So I'd love to see Celtic do more of them types of goals from corners.
Yeah, I mean, it looks already, as we say, that's something that we've looked into. Maybe made a focus point over the summer. Any other aspects of the display? We'll talk now about Joe Hart, though, Jonathan, as well. I'll let you can rack your brains if there's anything else with the game that you want to discuss. But Joe Hart's save was a huge moment. I'm not sure if it was in that piece of play as well, or was it a separate piece of play where he's kind of like ran into one of the Ross County players. I don't know if you've seen that. Like from behind, he was coming out with the ball.
He kind of almost like hits him in the back of the head, doesn't he? Just to push him out of the way.
He seemed quite pissed off. I quite like that. I'll be completely honest to you. See the save Joe Hart pulled off? I didn't think Joe Hart in 2022 was capable of that. That is my honest opinion. I think his stock had fell because his abilities are definitely, he definitely weakened, I think, over the space of a few years, Jonathan. He seemed to go out from Man City. He then had a Torino spell, which I don't think he set the heather alight. Then at Burnley, he was demoted to third choice. I don't think he played for Spurs, did he?
No, maybe once or twice in the League Cup, possibly. Maybe. Just the odd run out here and there, but certainly nothing to write home about.
The star certainly seemed to have fallen. But that save was absolutely top and crucial, as I say as well. Again, you talk about the fine lines, Jonathan. That was a massive moment, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. I'm not sure I've heard it spoke about in the media all that much, but he certainly does deserve a lot of credit for that, Jonathan. Again, it's just another example of our bigger players stepping up when they need to, Jonathan. That is valuable. I mean, it's all so easy when you say Joe Hart to say his experience. That's the first word that comes to your mind. But that was all about ability, Jonathan, that save. The nudge on the other player, that might be a bit of experience, as I say. But I think the ability to save the ball like that, big, strong hand, absolutely outstanding. He's 35, Jonathan. He's just slightly older than me by months, I think. I mean, as long as he's looking after himself, it's not all that old. I mean, it's nearing the end of your career, but not necessarily the end of his career yet as a goalkeeper. We've had competition brought in from Ben Siegrist, who's 30. So both keepers, bags of experience.
Yeah.
But I think Siegrist, as I always said, undoubtedly will raise Joe Hart's performance level this season. That's what competition does. I think we've maybe even seen that already. It was a stunning save. It was an excellent result. Any other takeaways?
Yeah, just to go back to Joe Hart, I think that was definitely his best save in a Celtic shirt for me by an absolute country mile. I don't even know if Joe Hart of last season would have made that save. I think that's all been to do with a lot more game time, first of all, to get out of the ring rust. But I think it's just his confidence has just went up leaps and bounds. You can just tell he's enjoying playing his football again. Postecoglou's done an absolute number on him, as he has done with so many others. And you can just tell Joe Hart is probably now looking and thinking that Siegrist has been brought in. Well, if he wants my jersey, he's going to have to do something extremely spectacular in order to take it away from me. Joe Hart has his eyes on one last Champions League campaign, and I think you're going to see the best of Joe Hart in the build-up to these group games, because he's determined that he's still got a point to prove on the biggest stage that world football has to offer for football clubs. And so Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you're making about the Champions League. I hadn't thought of that. But he will be maybe pinching himself almost a wee bit as well, Jonathan, because Joe Hart was certainly not probably contemplating playing a Champions League game again unless there had been like miraculous injuries at Spurs and he had to play as an emergency or whatever. But now, suddenly at 35, after a few years in the wilderness, as it were, it now looks like he is going to be, he is going to be, let's be honest, Celtic's #1 goalkeeper in the Champions League group stage again. Champions League group stage campaign for Joe Hart after competing in so many with Man City before. Even he must be like, I think you're right, there might be that wee bit of him where he's going, nah, I'm grabbing this with both hands because I thought these nights might have gone. And all my form and everything that you see, all my training and everything this season there will be a bit of a focus towards the Champions League. It's an extra carrot to dangle in front of him, a wee bit of extra motivation, Jonathan, and probably back to a stage that he thought those days were long gone.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you went back to the end of last season, he gets interviewed after we've lifted the league championship, and the first thing he talks about is being in the Champions League next season and how he's going to fight as hard as he can to get the jersey, because even then he knows Postecoglou was going to look for another goalkeeper to challenge him. He knew that even at that point that Siegrist coming in would not have surprised him in the slightest. But I think it's helped push him on, as you rightly say. It was a position that needed competition so that Joe Hart couldn't rest on his laurels. He's certainly got that in Siegrist because he's a very capable goalkeeper, and I think that'll be a good battle between them going forward over the course of the season. I think Siegrist will hopefully get some game time, maybe in the Cups, to prove himself if he can't get a way in past Joe Hart's performances in the league, because I do think Siegrist is a good goalkeeper and should be in some minutes as well. But, going back to Joe Hart, I think for the Champions League, he must have thought those days were past. Like, there's just no way. Joe Hart a couple of years ago could have thought in his wildest dreams he would be playing Champions League football again. He must have been contemplating calling it a day at some point, so when he was just sitting on that Spurs on the stands. He wasn't even on the bench for Tottenham. So it's been that long for him. Yeah, and at Burnley, it's quite the comeback story for Joe Hart. It's not finished yet, because he could still have one big save, because there's one thing Celtic will have to rely on heavily as their goalkeeper in the Champions League. Whatever this draw throws up for us, if Celtic are to produce a scalp, Joe Hart is going to need to be at the peak of his powers, similar to what we've seen previously in games. Arthur Boric has done it previously for Celtic. Fraser Foster has done it previously on the big stage for Celtic. Joe Hart probably thinks there's maybe one last game in him where he can have a huge say and really make a bit of a statement on that big stage. And, if he was to play a big part in Celtic getting, one of those big European wins at Celtic Park under the lights, then I think that'll just cap off his career nicely. So for me, I think that does give him that extra bit of motivation going into the Champions League campaign. And I think that's why you're going to see a lot of improvement with him. And I think also as well, you talk about him giving the nudge to the Ross County boy. I think that just highlights how much he's wanting to get that ball back in play, because you've got to remember we're drawing one each at that point. He's just wanting to get that ball released and try and get that away. And I think that's why he was annoyed, because the boy was blocking him. So he couldn't play the fast throw that he wanted. And again, that's just all part of the learning and development I think Joe Hart's had. And he's kind of proven that even though he's 35 years old, and he's still willing to try and learn new things, even at that age where it'd be very easy to sit on your laurels and think, you came from the Premiership, I know it all already. Whereas I think with coming up to Celtic, he's actually developed even more as a player and can now do things that he couldn't have done 5 or 10 years ago. And you even see that just with how far advanced he is up the pitch when Celtic don't have the ball. It's incredible. He's almost playing as our centre half. And even with the ball at his feet, he's doing a lot more with it than he's ever done in his career. So he's becoming a more well-rounded goalkeeper. So I've got to say, for me, Joe Hart was probably my big takeaway, because I was like you, I didn't think he had those types of saves left in him. And I think that was a bit of a wake-up call for me anyway, that, we've still got a top goalkeeper there, as well as a great individual for actually leading and inspiring the team on.
Definitely. Jonathan, finally on Joe Hart, does he have a chance to go to the World Cup?
I don't think so. I don't think England will look at him, not because I don't think he's capable of putting in the performances. I just don't think England will look north of the border. I think there's a bit of snobbery there. I would imagine they'll stick with Pickford with what they know, but I don't think England have a wealth of good goalkeepers. If I'm being completely blunt with
They
you,
don't.
I think Joe Hart's got as good a chance as any of the other ones if they were looking at it on merits. But I think when it comes to the fact he plays up in Scotland, I think that'll count against him unless he was to do something insane in the Champions League and put in like 2 or 3 outstanding performances. Then you never know. It might open the window a wee bit more for him. But I just think there'll be a bit too much English snobbery there. As we've seen many times over the years, Russell, we've seen it happen before with the likes of Chris Sutton and Alan Thompson. And I remember watching some of Phil's nostalgia over the summer, and you laugh at the fact guys like Darius Vassell were getting taken to major tournaments out of guys like Chris Sutton. It's honestly the most laughable thing I've ever seen in my life. So if you're asking me, so if you're asking me, do I think they'll even look at it? I don't think they'll even consider Joe Hart, unfortunately. It would take something unbelievable for England to change their mind on that one, I think.
That's fair enough. I think it's unlikely as well, to be honest to you. But, hopefully for Joe, that would happen because obviously it would be a massive achievement. And again, that would just show that his career doing that full circle thing, Jonathan, and coming round, and what a comeback it has been. Now, speaking of players on the comeback trail trying to salvage their careers, Jonathan, Ross Barkley's name has been creeping up. What's your thoughts on him in a Celtic jersey? I'll go first if you want. That would fit for me in the uninspiring, dull category of signing that doesn't really float my boat, if I'm perfectly honest to you. Obviously, we get my full backing if he was there, but I think, an extremely cheap or on loan Ross Barkley, I mean, if that's really what we're going for, I would be, again, a wee bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be keen on it personally. I think you're looking at it, and I know you're saying it's cheap because it's a loan deal, but you've got to remember Ross Barkley's still on a pretty big wage at Chelsea. I think he's at 100 grand a week. Now, obviously, Celtic wouldn't be paying the full amount, but they'd still be paying a sizable chunk of that plus a loan fee. So, I mean, whilst it's obviously going to be cheap in terms of not buying a player at like £7 or £8 million, it's still not going to be a ridiculously cheap move either from Celtic's point of view. There is still money being spent there. And you've got to say, I mean, for me looking at it, Ross Barkley's not a player for a position that we really need. Barkley would play more in an advanced sort of role, and I don't really feel Celtic need another player in that position. I'm not sure Barkley's better than what we have in there, to be completely honest. I think he's shown signs when he was a younger player that he could have been a very top talent. But it's never really worked out for him for me. And it's a name that I guess has a bit of credibility just because of the fact he's an English international and played a bit in the Premiership, that some people might turn around and think, oh, yeah, this guy's going to be like star-studded and Celtic would be lucky to have him. Not for me. Personally, I look at that and I don't think he offers much more than what we already have in those positions. I'd rather see guys like O'Reilly in there. I'd still think I'd rather see guys like Turnbull in that position ahead of him. Even Callum McGregor can play that advanced role as well. So I just think if we're going to be looking at a midfielder, it goes back to what I've said from the start of the window. I'd far rather see us getting that powerhouse sort of holding midfielder for Champions League football than see us waste money on wages for a Ross Barkley. Yeah. And I think the other thing I would mention on that, Russell, is when it comes to these sorts of deals, you're looking at this one, this would only be a loan. Let's be clear here. There would probably no option to buy if we were looking at doing a Ross Barkley sort of loan deal. One, because his wages are far too high. It's on 100 grand a week, so Celtic cannot match those sort of wages, and they shouldn't be even looking at that sort of wage anyway for a guy like him, or even half of that or whatever if he was willing to take a wage cut. And two, you'd probably still find him want quite a bit of money for him just because he's coming from England. Premiership clubs can set whatever values they want on players, and players, clubs tend to pay them. I mean, for you, would you even be interested in looking at these sorts of deals in general? I mean, forget about Ross Barkley for a moment. A loan deal for you, is that something Celtic should be looking at if they don't have an option to buy?
I think they would need to fit the profile that we've seen with Jens, Jota, CCV. That sort of early 20s, Jonathan. you've frozen there. I don't know if it was me who froze or was it you who froze.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, I would like to see if we were going to be bringing anyone loan, it would need to be with that first option thing, and likely to be a player that we could get a decent fee that we'd be able to sell on, Jonathan, in the future, would still have a resale value. I'm not sure a loan, even with an option to buy for Barkley, which, as you say, could be upwards of £6-7 million. I'm not sure I see Celtic making anything back on that deal. It'd be one heck of an outlay for a player who has flattered to the sea for the last 5 years. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that one. For me, I just think it's a signing that sometimes it's easy to say, oh, well, we'll tear it up in the SPFL. How many times have we been told that and then they don't? And, and it's like, if he were to flop or he were to have similar displays like he's made at Aston Villa amongst others recently, then you're stuck with him. Do you know what I mean? It's stinking the place out by then. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. Bob McBob's reminding everyone there's 118 people on the live, Jonathan, watching us. But only 40 likes. Come on. Hit the like
guys,
button.
You're better than that. You're better than that, as Chris Sutton would say.
Hit the share button if you want as well. Not only that, Jonathan, there's another rumour doing the rounds. And that is that John Kennedy is being lined up by Midtjylland in Denmark. Jonathan, what do you make of that? Is it time Kennedy flew the nest, as it were, Jonathan, and got himself a number one position somewhere, having had a taste of it at Celtic, albeit extremely disappointing spell in charge, you would have to say. Do you think that'd be something that could tempt him into taking on his first full-time managerial job?
Yeah, I think he needs to be looking at something, Kennedy, because I think he has aspirations of being a manager, and it's not going to happen directly at Celtic for me. That ship has sailed. If he was wanting the Celtic job directly as a promotion, then he had his chance to impress after Lennon left the building, and he never took it. So for me, he's going to have to go away somewhere and try and build up his reputation. If he ever wants to come back as a manager at Celtic, he's going to have to prove himself elsewhere. Midtjylland might well be a good fit for him, gets him out of the country as well, gives him a chance to make a fresh start somewhere else. John Kennedy is seen as one of these young managers that's, very highly regarded, to be fair to him. Rodgers liked him. Brendan Rodgers would have taken him with him to Leicester.
Yes.
So that does say that there is something there, even if we as fans don't always necessarily like what we see from John Kennedy. He's always been around every managerial appointment over the last 10 years. The managers have obviously seen enough in him that they've liked and kept him on board. I think probably in the summer last year when Postecoglou came in, it was probably more Ange Postecoglou having to get to grips with everything. But even now, Postecoglou might have brought in Harry Kewell, but he's still quite comfortable having John Kennedy there acting in a sort of number 2 role for him. So for me, the fact of the matter is, if he's this highly regarded by the coaches, and I'll keep going back to Brendan Rodgers because he's the best example with the fact he was going to take him to Leicester City, then that suggests to me that there is something there about him. And it maybe is just time that he goes and tries to find a club that can take him on and then try and prove himself there. Because let's face it, Russell, if you're looking at this from John Kennedy's point of view, what more can he actually prove at Celtic without actually having the manager's gig?
Say that last bit again.
What more can John Kennedy actually do at Celtic without having the manager's gig?
Well, that is it. I mean, I think if my hunch is, Jonathan, he was promised the manager's job after we won 10 in a row. And the only thing that cost him that was the fact he'd had to come in as supply manager, caretaker manager. And then obviously Celtic couldn't be seen, Jonathan, to promote from within, I don't think, after the backlash that we've seen from the supporters. So that is why that deal didn't happen. Kennedy's, obviously, his performance as manager wasn't great, to be honest. I think he did the same as what Lennon was doing, and I find that really strange. He didn't try to shake things up. He didn't put his own stamp on it. I think last season will have reinvigorated his feeling as a coach at Celtic. He probably went into this season with Ange thinking, oh, I'll be a bit part here, and all the fans have turned on me a wee bit, and this might all just be a wee bit of a negative experience because we weren't expecting much from last season. And then, of course, Ange has galvanised everything. The team became back to, you know, a swashbuckling side. You could say free scoring. But but I think what we could take from it as well, though, is that John Kennedy now, I think, would be a far more confident appointment for another club. Not for Celtic, but for another club. I don't think... I think it was wise of him to stay on again. That, you know, that the offer was there. And don't get me wrong, it's an old boys, you know, pals act. You know what I mean? Old pals act, you know, Jonathan.
Yeah.
When Ange came in, you know, I think he should have been able to have cleaned the decks of the coaching staff, albeit maybe he was allowed to, and he just chose not to. I find that hard to believe. That he wouldn't have wanted to make more than, you know, no changes to his coaching staff. I think Kennedy comes as part of the package for whoever the incoming manager was. I think John Kennedy himself will know that, you know, it'll just feel, I think he's been doing the job long enough now, Jonathan, for that itch to need scratched. And Midtjylland, by the way, no mugs, put us out the Champions League qualifiers last season, regularly at the top end of their domestic league. Eric Sviatchenko was there, captain of their side as well, so you would have an instant connection with him. I'd be interested to see who he took with him. Would he take Gavin Strachan with him? Would you see a former Celtic hero go with John Kennedy if he were to go somewhere? A name, you know, out the left field that you didn't see coming, Jonathan? Maybe, I don't know, for talking's sake, a Charlie Mulgrew go with him, something like that. You know, that he would know inside out, that he could trust, that wants to get their teeth into coaching. It just, you never know. It'd be an intriguing one. Whoever it is that Kennedy goes to, I think it'll be an intriguing one. Does it make sense for him to go to Europe? I mean, see now, I mean, at the time, I just thought his demeanour with Lennon, I felt he was pretty poor. I appreciate sometimes it's just screen grabs and instant photos, Jonathan, that tell a million stories, and only actually one out of those million stories are anywhere close to the truth. I do actually get that. However, there was moments where he did look a bit dour and a bit crabby. This time with Angie seems to be far more in the back, you know, in the background, doesn't he? Certainly his demeanour pitch side. I'm not saying the training, although we'd like to think Ange probably does a lot more on the training ground than Neil Lennon. No disrespect, Neil. I think it would be. I think now he goes though with the fans' best wishes. I think now it would be there's context to everything, Jonathan. We're now in a situation where Celtic's back at the top. Kennedy played his part in that, and I think now when he leaves, it would be with his well wishes. And I think there would undoubtedly be a real curiosity as well to see how he does, no matter where it is he goes.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think certainly people would be looking very closely at his managerial career if he was indeed to leave the club and wherever he ended up. I think Celtic fans and others would have an eye on it. Absolutely. I think you're right. I think when it comes back to the fact that Celtic obviously won the league last season, Kennedy did get his slice of redemption for the absolute shambles that was the 10 in a row bid. So for me, he would leave thinking that he's kind of at least been able to right some of those wrongs and kind of make good in his final season, you know, and kind of prove that he's still got the ability as a coach to get Celtic back to the top of the table and, you know, still have them competing for cups, etc. So for me, if you're looking at it, John Kennedy should probably be looking now to leave. I don't think there's anything left for him to accomplish. I don't think the fans are going to be overly bothered either way as to whether he stays or whether he goes. I think, you know, with the fact he's obviously quite comfortable under Postecoglou, I don't think he's doing anything really wrong over the past 12 months or so. So I don't think Celtic fans are going to be overly bothered. If Postecoglou wants him to hang around and he's happy to stay, then that's fine. But I think from his point of view, he probably needs to get himself out of Celtic Park if he's wanting to make a career as a football manager. You know, and he's still quite a young guy for a manager level, John Kennedy. So Yeah, because I was going to say, he feels like he's been around forever, but it's only because his career was curtailed very early due to a shock injury, even though it feels like he's been around for the last like 20-odd years as a coach. But it's like, it's one of those ones for Kennedy's point of view. I think he probably needs to get out more than the club are really going to be overly bothered either way. Because I think even if he did leave, I'm not so sure whether he would take Gavin Strachan with him or not. But, I think from a Celtic point of view, we'd be quite comfortable, whatever ended up happening there, that Postecoglou would be able to source other coaches to come in and start to build even more of his own backroom team, which I think was something we all kind of expected to happen last season, and it never really materialised anyway. And obviously he has got Kuehl in the building this time around, so there is obviously signs that Postecoglou does have coaches that he's identified that he would like to work with. So I've no doubt he'll have a few others in mind over the coming season. So Postecoglou will be well armed, I would imagine, with a list of coaches he'd like to get in if Kennedy left. So I don't see it as a concern from a Celtic point of view if indeed he decides it's time to fly the nest and try a managerial gig.
Yeah, I mean, the only quandary I think they would have would be make sure it's the right fit. Do your homework. Check under the bonnet properly, Jonathan, because we cannot deny he's got a cushy number at Celtic. It doesn't seem like his job's ever going to be in a shaky peg. Champions League night's coming up, albeit you're not the number one. You're still involved in all that atmosphere, Jonathan. It's a wonderful stage to be experiencing. In your football coaching stroke management career at such a young age, all over again, getting back into the Champions League nights like he had under Rodgers, he got experience from. That's going to be a pull. And also, once he's out the door at Celtic, doesn't necessarily get straight back in if his managerial gig didn't work, because it'd be a wee bit embarrassing, wouldn't it, to come back in as a back.
It's going back to your tail between your legs. It's not really something he'd be able to really do. I don't think.
For him to leave, he's got to know where he's going is the right fit. Midtjylland's a bit different because it comes with a different pressure. It's a completely different pressure from in Scotland, where I think, obviously, once you look at the Sean Maloney sacking, I think John Kennedy would be very, very wary of taking a job in Scotland on the back of that as well. That's why when he's maybe been linked with the likes of Hibs in the past, St Mirren in the past, maybe it's, of course, the reason he's never actually went through with these jobs. I'm not saying if he's been offered or not, I don't know. But maybe he's got reservations about the attitude of some of these SPFL chairmen. Are they really going to buy into this project that, or the next, are they really just going to look at results and don't care if you're hoofing it out the park, up the park every 2 seconds? I mean, there's a vacancy right now at Motherwell, Jonathan. A couple of years back, they said John Kennedy would be a good fit for that. Now, though, I think with the Maloney experience at Hibs, and I'm not comparing the two chairmen because I think Motherwell do a lot of good things, but I think if I was a manager, I would be going, is Scotland, is the Scottish top flight clubs, are they, and the Scottish media, by the way, are they all ready to embrace clubs trying to play football the right way? Or is it over hysterical? Is it all about results on the park? But best of luck to John Kennedy. That story obviously just came out today as well. The Ross Barkley one yesterday. A big thank you to you, Jonathan. It's been good to have you be back on the bus with yourself after a few weeks of us not doing it on a Monday. We did it on time. Well, we're 4 minutes late. That's not bad. Thanks to everyone in the comments. It's been great fun tonight. Hopefully you can hit that like button for me, hit the share button, hit subscribe, all the usual shite. If you want to become a member, there is a $1.99 monthly bus ticket option. I know about 30, 40 of you have right now. And it does make a huge, huge difference. Anyway, Jonathan, it's time for Chris Sutton. Thanks for coming on to the Boyce'S.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.